Good evening out there. Well, the sun has slowly made its way down and we can finally get comfortable and have a chat. My name is Eddie Booze, and this is Exit the Matrix. Throughout my life, I have traversed my share of rabbit holes, and like many of you out there, I have seen and experienced some things that I simply cannot explain. I invite you all to consider that this world may not be exactly what we've been told it is, and that maybe, just maybe, we haven't even scratched the surface of the absolute truths that lie before us. That being said, let me welcome my guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
I'm John Whitting, just a common man living in the world.
Common man.
No particular background in anything we're talking about today, just interested in all things out there. I've worked primarily my entire life in advertising, so as a writer, brand specialist. So again, no specialization in what we're talking about, but just a general interest in.
Well, let's get you. Let's get your expertise on this show, dude. I mean, I get you. Have you help us, work on the brand of Exit the Matrix, dude.
For sure, 100%. That's probably where I'm best used. But
awesome, dude.
Also, I guess the gift for gab. Love to talk, but I love just love to listen and take in stuff too. That I think I'm a smart enough man to just listen more than I speak. I think that's a good way to live. And that's just kind of my approach to things. Take in information, then come up with your own conclusion afterwards.
100%. So. Absolutely. That's well said, actually. And a lot of people actually don't do that. A lot of people are just waiting for their turn to talk.
Totally.
Instead of listening and actually engaging in what's being said. Yeah. So, great to have you, John. I appreciate you, brother. Today, we're going to jump into a very, very interesting topic. The topic of chemtrails, actually. So, this is kind of a big one that's kind of been around since about the 90s. I think this was kind of public knowledge and a big thing. I'm not sure if they were doing it beforehand so much, but the 90s is kind of when it came into the public purview mainly, and then it kind of took off from there. And every time you see a plane nowadays that's got a contrail behind it or a chemtrail behind it, a lot of people just assume that it's heavy metals and things like that being sprayed into the atmosphere. So what do you know about chemtrails, just kind of surface wise?
I'll tell you, I had to do a little bit of research because I think a lot of this from what I believe at this point is just a lot of misinformation. A lot of people kind of playing the game of telephone and, just passing stories back and forth. It's just funny. Like, I used to call them. First of all,
so you're on the side of that they're contrails, not chemtrails.
I guess I'm team contrail right now.
All right. Well, by the end of this episode, you will be a chemtrailer.
Okay. That'll be good. If I lean that way, I'll be impressed
Okay. So for now, you're pretty much a pragmatist. You think that the government is telling us the truth about everything, and that's that. I'm kidding. I mean, but as far as chemtrails go,
I'd like to see some more evidence. I don't know. It just seems like a very detectable. It just seems like if it was true, we'd be able to detect it a little more. Sure. I don't even know how efficient it is to do from that space. How many? Again, I'm here to listen and learn more of what information you got. Because again, I've only scratched the surface on it. Use common sense, I feel, to kind of deduce what's really going on. Absolutely. But I'm open to new information.
And, I think what you're what you're describing is kind of the average person.
Yeah.
The average person doesn't buy into most conspiracy theories.
Right.
They kind of hear that and they go, "Oh, that's hooey." That's just whatever. Dude. That's just some Alex Jones talking point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, woo! But if I had a quarter for every time Alex Jones was right. But anyway, So, I think you're echoing the sentiment of society as a whole mostly. Yeah. But I think the further we get down this road, though, I think more people are starting to catch on that some of these theories do hold some weight.
Right. I just want to ask you real quick. Do you feel the topic of chemtrails and contrails has quieted a little bit in the
Sure.
last couple of years.
100%.
And I'm wondering why. Is there just other news that has
100%.
taken place that?
Yes.
But okay, that's what I'm curious.
I think the answer to both of those questions are a resounding yes.
Yeah.
I think one, chemtrails, the chemtrail thing has been definitely put on the back burner as far as like some conspiracy theories go, or conspiracy theories that are being taken seriously go.
Right.
And I do think a reason for that, as you asked, is the fact that there are so many different things going on in the media, and there's always the next crisis.
Right.
There's always the next
hottest news.
There's always the next Vegas shooting. There's always the next train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. There's always the next something that's getting your attention, that's taking you away from that. And like we talked about, the chemtrail thing kind of came about in the 90s. So I mean, we're now 35 years in, you know, to that particular conspiracy theory, and a lot of people I think have kind of moved on from it. I think a lot of people have kind of accepted it. Right. You know, I mean, as far as people who have done any research and who are kind of into it, you know, aside from the general public who kind of looks at it from a surface level and just goes, I don't have time for that. I have life to live. I'm not doing a deep dive into that today. Right. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it. I think it's real. I think that they're putting stuff in personally. Before I did this deep dive, and I kind of do a deep dive for every episode we do. Right. But before I did this deep dive, I kind of already thought, you know, that it was real. I know that HARP is real. I know that they're doing weather modification stuff and cloud seeding and things like that. Sure. And I do know that they've admitted to dropping, you know, heavy metals into the atmosphere via you know, planes
to
and things like that.
rain and stuff, or for other reasons.
There's that, and I'm not sure if they stated other reasons, but you know, I did a deep dive last night. Yeah, and we'll kind of jump into that.
I'm excited to hear your side of things, because it seems like all the evidence, because of the time that's passed since the topic's been brought up, it's been, you know, negated by scientists and whatnot, or whoever these heads are that they're putting in front of us to tell us these things. But I'm curious to hear the other side of stuff.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, there's tons of scientific evidence and like medical proof and of things that are going on, but we'll get into that. All right, so let's jump into this. So let's start off with just kind of the reality of chemtrails. Okay, so chemtrails are kind of defined as intentional chemical and biological agents sprayed into the atmosphere, distinct from ordinary condensation trails, which are contrails, what we're talking about. That's the difference. Right. Okay, so the idea is that chemtrails are tied to geoengineering, climate manipulation, military applications, population health control, and atmospheric weaponization. Okay? Right. So that's quite the array, you know what I mean, of things that it runs the board of things that it could be
usage for it.
Yeah, exactly, and whys too. But why does this topic matter? It matters because atmospheric tampering has direct effects on weather systems, crop yields, human health, which is a huge one, and national security. Ignorance about chemtrails allows unchecked global manipulation of natural systems, which means like, we're talking about like the UAE recently did a cloud seeding thing where it like flooded their whole, you know, it flooded many regions over there for like a long time, like in crazy rain. So with that kind of thing going unchecked and people not even knowing about it, I think it's.
I mean, how much
dangerous.
How much into the experimental phase of cloud seeding are we though? Too?
I think way past the experimental phase.
Really? How long have they been doing cloud seeding for? That's
like since the 70s, I think. Okay. And then even too, like not only cloud seeding, but like they have used these chemicals to redirect hurricanes.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, things along those lines, you know, so it's not just it's pretty wild.
We can alter more than we realize we can alter based on what we put up there.
Absolutely. Gotcha. And I was talking about this with somebody else on another podcast about a week or two ago, but everything that we know publicly, that the government has told us publicly, we're probably about 30 years behind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like their tech is easily 30 years or more ahead of what we know. Totally. You know what I mean? So, whatever we see as cloud seeding and we think like it's this kind of like guess, they're probably way more in tune with it than we understand, probably, you know? we're going to draw from government documents, scientific patents, whistleblower testimony, and military project disclosures and academic studies today, and go over kind of explore this topic here.
Right.
All right, so there were some historical programs that prove atmospheric spraying, and we'll go into those right now. So the first one would be Project Popeye. In 1967 to 1972, the U.S. military operation was held during the Vietnam War. And this is 67 to 72, so we're going all the way back to the late 60s, right. Talking about when this started, The objective was weather modification to extend monsoon season.
Wow.
They wanted to, back then they were doing that. They were extending rainfall seasons altogether.
Where at? Like, were they trying to turn weaponized weather?
They were trying to flood enemy supply routes in Ho Chi Minh.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's very specific and targeted. That's not like, we'll try and create some rain and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're gonna. We're going to do something very specific to change our God-given atmosphere to flood a specific region, like a very specific region. Right. That's wild. Right. And that's in the late 60s, early 70s.
It seems like in the 60s you could get away with that. Like the government could, because everything went even way more unchecked in terms of like, hey, give us a budget to do this. Let's just try it. We don't just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So I'm curious if that experimentation would be possible now, especially now with today's administration, with the closer eye on it, where all this money's going. But it's just interesting. It's
very. And now, that's a good question, I think that back then, I mean, there was obviously like the anti-war parties and like the hippies and everything and like that whole movement.
Right.
But I don't think that tech was far enough along for the public to get any kind of, you see what I'm saying? I think that was probably one of our biggest drawbacks and setbacks back then, to allow that that really allowed the government to get away with tons and tons of shit. But you gotta remember too, we had checks and balances back then in journalism. Right. So we had, the Smith-Mundt Act wasn't a thing back then. We had anti-propaganda laws that were still in effect back then, where journalists were absolutely, it was illegal for them to knowingly lie to us.
Right.
It was illegal for the state to sponsor media. Those two things are actually legal now.
Right.
So it's like, you know what I mean? There were so many differences, like in legalities, and like we talked about tech and certain things. So I think back then it was just so much easier to just do these things. Yeah. Public don't even care. Public don't even know. And even if the public does know, it's a small handful, like a small swath of people, and they're the tinfoil hat.
Totally. Right.
So, but this was actually declassified in '74. I mean, it's just more proof that governments have weaponized the weather.
Yeah.
And then they did Operation Large Area Coverage in the 1950s. In the fucking 50s, dude. The U.S. Army Chemical Corps. The U.S. Army Chemical Corps dispersed zinc-cadmium sulfide particles across vast parts of the United States to study dispersion patterns. Okay, so let's break that down for a quick second here. So
where exactly in the United States? I'm curious.
That's a really good question.
It seems like we have these places in our country that like nuclear testing and stuff, where it's like, let's just blow shit up there and see what it won't affect a large population. Right? I'm just curious where all these little testing sites are around us.
Good question.
Like, let's just try stuff.
Great question. And those of you out there, look into that. Where are these? Are you living there now?
Right.
You know what I mean? Are you living in an area where zinc cadmium sulfide particles were spread vastly across your area of the United States? I mean,
curious too on these.
By the way, it was overpopulated areas.
Oh, wow.
Populations were unknowingly exposed to this.
I know you have the information. You have information on these tests. Is there information on the results of these tests too? What conclusions? Any findings from it, or is it
from the studies, from the actual conclusions of the studies? I don't have actual conclusions from those particular studies, but let's break it down for just a quick second. So the U.S. Army, which means it's the United States government, they dispersed without the population knowing it onto the population in the 50s.
Right.
Large. They dispersed zinc cadmium sulfide particles across vast parts of the United States to study these dispersion patterns. Now, they did that to the United States population in the 50s simply to study the patterns of dispersion without knowing the health effects, without knowing the climate effects, without knowing the geological effects, the ecological effects.
Right.
How irresponsible is that?
Well, I wonder, these elements, whatever they dropped, was it because their weight, they were light enough to kind of detect, would they floated a little, further with the, I'm just curious why the zinc or whatever you mentioned, those certain elements are.
I guess that's a good question, but I wouldn't give the benefit of the doubt saying that, oh, well, maybe it was so light that they just kind of blew away.
Yeah.
And
or
they got to
traceable
land,
or whatever.
Yeah, they got to land somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we breathe that in.
Yeah,
we eat those crops.
Right, right.
That's just something we are now, that's now we're exposed to by default. We didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
It wasn't voted on. You know what I mean? People didn't get together and be like, hey, you want to vote on measure A, AB 32? We're going to spray heavy metals into the environment, guys. Yeah, let's do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they didn't vote on that because they knew the population would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're not doing that. It's insane.
Right.
But, there are other key programs such as Project Cloverleaf, alleged covert commercial airline spraying in collaboration with military objectives, Operation Sea Spray, biological agents sprayed over San Francisco to test population vulnerability to biological warfare. What the fuck? Operation Sea Spray. Biological agents were sprayed over San Francisco to test population vulnerability to biological warfare. Now, before we go, I'm gonna get into that a little more. I'm gonna kind of do like a quick little search on that. But just keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. So, without your knowledge, audience, the government decided it was a good idea to spray biological agents over San Francisco to test your vulnerability to biological warfare. Sounds cool, right? Right. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I think a key takeaway here is just that atmospheric spraying has a historical precedent. It's not theoretical.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's fucking wild, dude. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this had gone all the way back to the 50s. Like, what do you think about that? What do you think about that now that we're talking about it, and initially we thought, maybe 70s. Right. What do you think about that like, we, as far back as the 50s, to our knowledge,
right,
that they've been doing this?
I mean, I think desperate times bring desperate measures, and I think, people have been crop dusting, I'm sure for around that time too, so it seemed someone had some crazy idea of how would we put bigger planes up there and drop more stuff from above. I mean, I don't put it past government to try anything once to see if it actually works, especially in desperate times, in either times of war or times of famine, whatever. So what do you think would be their reasoning for, like, let me ask you this. So if we're like taking an altruistic route here and we're just exploring this and we're saying, let's just say that the government did have like positive intentions and positive motives here, what would those be? What would the positive intention and motive be to unknowingly spray the population of San Francisco with biological agents that they don't know about? What would be the positive there? I guess I'd have to know more of the area that it covered. Was it more the marine life? Was it more soil? I mean, well, it was the population. If you're dropping anything on anywhere, I would think it's going to enhance the soil. It's got maybe some air filtration type of benefits. I don't know. I think we're just constantly adjusting to our world, whether you believe in climate or global warming or just normal warming of the planet. I think we have to adjust. It's gonna adjust whether we in the ice age. The planet was covered in ice at one time, and it's like things are naturally going to change too. So it's like we have to learn to evolve and adjust with it. And I would think scientists, someone was thinking, hey, there's some problem areas going on here. We got some real areas of drought. Look at the wildfires of California right now. Like something's got to be. Whatever we're doing is not working now. I mean, how much more intense does it have to get? I mean, Palisades just burned down. So I'm sure they're looking for any solution out there. I think it's wise to,
Well, let's explore that for a second. Let's just take the example of the Palisades fire. Like California has made it illegal to clear brush in certain areas because of the wildlife, reasons and things along those lines, and that continues to help to add to these fires every year. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if we're talking about doing the best thing for the population, but we look at that for it as an example. That's just a baseline surface example. We can see that the government's plainly not doing what's in our best interest for us, even just in that example.
Right.
So why would we want to assume that them spraying heavy metals such as zinc, cadmium, sulfate onto us is some sort of, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, like, I get where you're where you're coming from with, like, that maybe it's this or maybe it's that, or like, let's try and give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm just trying to explore that and find out, like, okay, like, and I'll be honest with you, like, none of the things that you said, like, they just don't seem like a good enough reason to do that to your population, is what I'm saying.
Well, I feel where I'm lacking information, and you make more of a decision, is like the zinc and all the other things you're listing. I'd like to know what are the positive effects of that, and what are the negative effects of those things. Like, what does the risk outweigh the reward?
You do know that, like, exposure to heavy metals is like a huge reason, as a huge cause of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So like for us to be breathing in, zinc, or
don't people take zinc in their daily vitamin and stuff?
They take zinc to, as an immune system boost. Yeah.
Right,
I took it last night, actually, before I went to bed.
Right.
Steven was in here sick yesterday, and I didn't want to, get sick.
Right.
But you're taking that and you're putting that into your bloodstream directly via oral intake. You're not breathing it in, along with other heavy metals and other, things that they're just putting in there to, without your knowledge. I mean, at least when you take zinc, you take it willingly and knowingly. You're not having the government give you one of those what are those asthma albuterol inhalers. Yeah, like, here, guys, you have to take this. But no, it's interesting, and the reasoning behind it could, we could talk about it all day. There's possibilities are endless.
Right.
We don't know why.
Right.
But that's just it's just kind of interesting to explore that topic. And those of you out there do me a favor, if you're watching this in the comments, do me a favor and throw your opinions out in there. Let us know kind of what you think, why you think that the government would do something like that. And also let us know too, like, if you do think it was positive and you do think there was altruistic intentions and motives behind it, I would love to know that. I would love to know why. And also too, I kind of did a deep dive here about chemtrails overall. So some of these things I could definitely stand to do a little bit more research on. So I'll definitely get into that. But as far as everything goes to this point, fucking government sucks. So, okay. So yeah. And so let's just go into some notable, speaking of the shitty government, let's go into some notable patents here. So the government's patents for aerosol spraying technology, they have some notable patents here. Okay. So U.S. patent 5,003,186 in 1991, stratospheric Welsbach seating for reduction of global warming, produces spraying barium salts and aluminum oxides from a high altitude. Now, this is essentially, the idea behind this is that they spray a layer of barium and aluminum above, like, in our atmosphere, right?
Above cloud level.
So, yeah, and then, or at cloud level or above cloud level, and then what happens is, in order to stop global warming, it refracts the sun's rays off of the aluminum and the barium. Right.
Almost like a mirror effect, and it bounces the sun.
That's back. The idea. That's the goal for that particular patent, which I think is insane. I think it's absolutely nuts.
I want to say one thing on this, and you can look it up and see if I got this right. But when 9/11 happened, they grounded all the planes. So there were no planes over the United States at that time. And they did a temperature reading afterwards, and the temperature actually went up because of the lack of contrails. Now, I don't know if it's chemtrails, but contrails, just the cloud-like effect that these planes create that, again, reflect the sun rays back up. It actually lowered the temperature. So I've heard both sides too of, again, contrails or chemtrails.
Sure.
The cloud-like thing they create can either reflect the sun back towards the sun that's cooling the earth, or sometimes can get trapped underneath them as well and heat the earth. So I've heard both sides of it. Chemtrails are bad for the earth. They're good for the earth. It's just like, I don't know. I haven't heard one solid direction of each, but it's just interesting. That one thing from 9/11 when the planes were grounded, that the United States actually heated up due to the lack of chemtrails. But
interesting.
Again, check my sources.
I'm definitely going to check into that.
That was interesting.
Definitely going to check into that. But yeah, that's just as far as that goes, like humans have been on this planet for just the most minuscule amount of time.
Yeah.
And we can see that there has, in the history of this planet, there has been shifts in climate on its own, without our,
for sure,
without
100%.
yeah. So it heats up, it cools down, it heats up, it cools down. I think humanity is fairly arrogant to believe that we're causing an actual temperature shift so drastic that we can detect it. Now, I'm not. I say that to say this. I'm not saying that humanity's doing the planet a huge service in the ecology department by any means.
Right.
I think that we're, polluting this world and we're doing all kinds of crazy shit to it that we shouldn't be.
Right.
However, just to make the blanket statement that, humanity is heating the world up, I think is pretty irresponsible. And I'll actually, when we're done here, I'm actually going to send you a study, like a short lecture, actually.
Right.
It goes over a couple studies and it talks about what I just talked about there. And
cool.
Love to talk about that on another episode too. I mean, shit, global warming is a thing that's like heavily, it's heavily debated.
That topic's not going anywhere, dude.
Yeah, it's heavily debated, dude. Okay, so here's another patent. U.S. patent 5,360,162 in 1994. This is a method for producing a layer of artificial ionized plasma. It hints at weather manipulation and electromagnetic modification. So producing a layer of artificial ionized plasma. Interesting. I wonder what that ionized plasma consists of. I wonder what it's made of. What they're introducing as far as that goes. So that's a weird one. I don't know. That's something I have to look into.
Yep.
All right, so U.S. patent 7,413,145 in 2008 says that it states methods for atmospheric dispersion of particulates for climate alteration. So this is the patent on the methods for atmospheric dispersion of particulate for climate alteration. So the way that they come out of the plane, the way that they actually disperse these particulates into the climate. Now, chemical and compounds identified are not limited to, but have been detected as aluminum oxide, barium salts, strontium, sulfur dioxide have all been detected in environmental testing from the chemtrails, from planes, right. From the dispersion. These substances are also linked to respiratory illnesses, neurological issues, and soil and water contamination. So, I mean, these patents do lay out a technological capability to modify the weather and atmosphere via aerial spraying. So, just the patents alone lay out the technological means, for them to actually produce it.
I tell you, I'm interested in the thought of government having patents for themselves. Like, you think I own a patent because I want to profit off of this, but you would think to disperse stuff in our atmosphere, you'd have to be the government to have the right to do that anyway. So again, the need to own a patent for something that you kind of already control, but it's like maybe it's profit. You don't want a private company coming up with it and then leasing the right to whatever. You know what I'm saying though?
Yeah,
it's just weird that government is collecting these. It seems like a private industry type thing to create and own patents, but government's hopping on it first to control not just the product, but they also control the right to do it as well.
Let me ask you this, and you're 100% correct on that. Now, I get military patents and things along those lines for maybe military weapons and things like that.
Right.
But you're absolutely right, and the government doesn't bring us any products or services.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Services, but they're all shit. Anytime the government is tasked with bringing us a service, let's just go to education for a minute.
It's almost bare minimum.
It's always almost bare minimum. So, Yeah.
With no checks on themselves on performance,
exactly,
too, which is crazy.
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. Why is the government developing and owning patents on certain things along these lines? First of all, they shouldn't be spraying shit on the population unknowingly. And second of all, why are they holding the technological patent, which essentially allows them to get any financial gain if someone takes the patent? Why? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I feel like philosophically I have to explore that
There's
a little bit mentally. There's something wrong
government
there.
Just
yes, right.
Stocking up on patents over things that they already kind of control over too. It's almost a monopoly on on just society and the earth. It's weird. It is weird. All right, so check this out. So there are some scientific and environmental evidence too that also supports kind of what we're talking about here with the chemtrails. So soil and water testing. There's been elevated levels of aluminum, barium, and strontium found in soil and snow samples, especially after heavy aerial activities. And this was tests of this nature were done in the Mount Shasta region. Right. So after these planes go over, we see what most people think are contrails, what conspiracy theorists believe is chemtrails, and then they do tests afterwards and they find elevated levels of these elements in the area. Right. Climate shifts, rapid unnatural changes in temperature, humidity, and precipitation patterns observed globally. I've noticed that too. It's like you're walking around, it's a beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden here come the fucking planes. And they're ching, 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 crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. And all of a sudden, 2 days later, not even 2 days later, like the next day, the entire sky is covered in gray. It's raining, it's misty, it's shitty for no reason whatsoever. Right. I mean, weather happens, but I'm just saying that there are definite correlations, observable correlations. Right. A global dimming effect, a measurable reduction in sunlight reaching Earth's surface since the 1960s. That's crazy. A measurable reduction in sunlight reaching Earth's surface in the 1960s. Since I want to know how much sunlight, if we're able to measure it, I want to know how much sunlight has been reduced in the Earth's from hitting the Earth's surface since the 60s. I want to know like those numbers. So, by the way, if any of you guys out there have access, throw that, toss a link in the chat for us. It just makes me think, what was it, like the 80s or the 90s, like the ozone, the hole in the ozone, how big that was, and our refrigerators and our, speaking of aerosol, our little hairsprays and stuff, we're making this little square patch above us that was just going to kill us all. Right. And again, another conversation that's kind of taken a back seat. Yes. And this ozone hole thing's gone away, or it's still there, or it's gotten bigger, no one really knows. It's just moved on to the next conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have tree and plant die-offs too. We have soil tests show acidity changes tied to heavy metal contamination. Yeah. So the actual tests that they've done have shown acidity changes. Interesting. Tree diseases and stunted agricultural yields correlate with suspected spraying periods as well. Just we can see that there's been measurable environmental damage that align with the chemical agents that have been mentioned in these patents. Right. I mean, can we definitively say one way or another that something is going on? No, I necessarily not. But we can at least take away from this that there are measurable environmental changes that have been happening and that are caused by some of the heavy metals that have been sprayed over us. Right. Yeah. So we have some military documents and strategic objectives as well. So, in 1996, the United States Air Force published a report called "Owning the Weather" in 2025. A U.S. Air Force strategy paper outlining how weather modification could become a force multiplier. Okay, and they discuss use of aerosols and electromagnetic manipulation to control local weather for tactical military advantages. Now, HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, has been alleged to interact with atmospheric chemicals to modify jet streams, cause droughts, trigger storms, or suppress rain. Now, this is tied to plasma generation patents and atmospheric seeding too. Remember, I was telling you how I would like to know what is in this plasma stuff. So that's how they're modifying these jet streams, but it's chemical. It's still chemical in to some extent. But that's how they're modifying these jet streams, changing the direction of hurricanes, like we talked about earlier, causing droughts, triggering storms, and suppressing
crazy.
rain.
It's like humans playing God, is what it seems like.
Exactly
you know?
what it is.
I mean, look at AI too. It's like humans want to evolve to the next thing or be in control of their own destiny. You know, and it's like. God, nature, call it what you will, but it's like, hey, why can't we just control this? Why can't we just take control of it? And that is, I don't put that beyond any human or government to have that instinct. I think it's just human nature. We're showing it every day. Again, AI, best example of that. But yeah, if I could control the weather, I'm God. If I could, make the earth rotate the other direction, I'm God. Whatever I can use to benefit us or me, it's just like, hell yeah.
The arrogance of man.
Yeah. I mean, I look at if chemtrails, whatever, all that stuff is legit. It feels like the Ozempic of the environment, It's like, what's a quick fix? Oh, we screwed.
Yes.
Like, I feel like
exactly.
We're trying things,
Great
we screw
analogy.
things up, and it's like, what's a quick fix to solve that problem we just fucked up? That was the wrong turn. How do we make a quick fix so we can take the right turn over here? But we got to fix this mess first. So it just seems like we're constantly creating our own problems and then compounding it with what we think are fixes or easy fixes, and we're just kind of rolling the dice on stuff. Like, it's like, hey, I mean, 1960s, you probably could have sold me on this idea. Hey, if we put planes up there and just sprinkle the clouds with this stuff, it's gonna be beneficial for the environment. Our crops are gonna be better. We'll get rain. There's a 10% chance it might not, but let's see, And if that doesn't work, we'll clean it up some other way. So it's like, I feel like we're constantly cleaning up our messes with other messes,
Yes, 100% correct. It reminds me of like, it's funny. Like, are you into movies? Are you a cinema guy?
Yeah.
All right. There's a couple of directors, the Safdie brothers. You know who these guys are? They made Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler.
Okay, yeah.
And they made Good Time with Robert Pattinson.
Okay.
Dude, what you're talking about is like how their movies are structured. It's like this. It's like something happens, and then to fix that problem, the main character makes one bad decision after another, trying to fix the problem, and it just snowballs into this out of control fucking problem. And you're absolutely right. I think that you hit the nail on the head there. I think that the government goes way too far in overcorrection, and it goes way too far the other way in it's just this weird like seesaw.
Well, and then you get in times of panic, like you mentioned the monsoons in Vietnam or whatever it was, or whatever, combating times of panic, war times. You're even more desperate to make and probably more likely to make a bad decision. But you get some defense guy that's like, hey, I think we can create monsoons over here.
And some scientist is over there going, don't do that.
And let's go try. Yeah, but it's like,
but the military guys are like, fuck that, we're doing it.
You put yourself in the shoes of the president or some government official. It's like, make me look good, solve this, and it's like, we can bury it if it doesn't work, or we can amplify it if it does work. And I think that's business. I mean, government. I can't blame government for acting that way, but I think
I can.
Obviously, I mean, but I see only because I see it in the business world too of people.
Sure.
The leader's front and center when everything goes right, and he's way at the back when things go wrong. So it's like, that's, I don't know. I just think that's our approach in general, is like, there's a mess. Let's throw something at it, see if it works. If it doesn't, we got some smart minds that'll figure out something else to clean up that mess. And it's like,
exactly.
We're just a perpetuating mess we're in. Instead of hitting the brakes and getting our best minds together, and really let them all talk it out.
And
it's just
figuring it out. Yes, absolutely.
And then if it's profitable on top of it, even better, easier to make that decision. It's like, wait, we can make money off this, even if it's wrong or right. Like, there's not the right people making the right decisions at most of the times, and unfortunately they got the most influence and power.
That's a solid observation. That's a solid observation. Cool. And I totally agree, by the way.
Nice.
So check this out. So let's move on to some health effects on human population. So we're talking about respiratory illnesses. We're talking about the effects that these heavy metals we know cause health-wise in people today.
Right.
So respiratory illnesses, there's been a sharp uptick in asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and an unexplained respiratory other unexplained respiratory symptoms since the late 90s, and which was when we, as the public, started to realize that this was kind of happening. Neurological disorders. So major correlation with increases in Alzheimer's disease, autism spectrum disorders, and other neurodegenerative conditions linked to heavy metal exposure. So, I'll say on that, when I was 17, on a personal note, when I was 17, I moved in to take care of my grandmother who had early stages Alzheimer's.
My mom's got dementia right now. She's living with us. She was living with us 5 days a week, but yeah, now she's on the street. But yeah,
brother,
I hear you. I go on and say anyways.
No, man.
I just said that I know how hard that is.
It's a very So for 11 years, I took care of my grandmother, and you know the deal.
Yeah.
You know what comes with that. And I will tell you out there, if you guys have never experienced family member, someone you love, and especially people that you know that are sharp, that are smart, and seeing that faculty dwindle to any extent is just it breaks you to some way, to some extent. It's almost unexplainable. I don't wish any of you to have to go through that out there, but if it's even a possibility that this aerosol spraying and all this stuff has aluminum, has these heavy metals, and it could be even a small percentage of a chance that it's causing or contributing to the mental decline of people in the world, it's not worth it. Not even the smallest chance that it's successful. It's not worth it for the harm that it does. And I will say, like I said, kind of personally, anecdotally, like that's just coming from myself, and seeing the effects of Alzheimer's and what it does to people. So,
first and foremost, I feel for you. Like I said, I'm going through the same kind of journey myself. My mom has been kind of diagnosed. It's the whole dementia, Alzheimer's thing is a whole nother discussion. Like, I'm still learning about what exactly it's classified as, but it's intense and it's sad. You should see, fortunately you can do things. I've been able to do things that kind of trigger her memory, bring her back a little more.
Yeah, you can.
But it's hearing you say that, like, I from my observancy, I don't think there's one singular cause for it. I think society as a whole is so broken from our food that we consume to the stuff we watch, the loneliness, the elder care is just out of control. But so
you're absolutely right.
But again, to your point, if anything's leading to but I think a lot of things are leading to it. And I think there's we need to identify those things and help just elevate the health of our country as a whole. There's so many ways to attack that.
Agree.
But I just, again, goes back to profits. Like, if there's money to be made, it's people are slow to change.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, and you're absolutely right. I in no way meant to insinuate or imply that chemtrails or the heavy metals that are released from them are the singular or sole cause of any dementia or Alzheimer's. I'm just saying that, and I think I said this before, that even if they're a contributing factor in the most minuscule way, it's not worth it to be doing that to the population. Yeah. It's unbelievable what it does to people, and it's just like we're talking to you out there. When we're saying this to you for your benefit. He knows, I know. We're not telling each other. We're telling you. So if you like I said before, if you've ever seen anybody out there with it, and it's not worth it for them to be spraying these types of chemicals and shit like that into our environment and our atmosphere. If they are, which they are. So, I mean, we went over that. They are.
But I also want to say I appreciate you sharing that story, because going through it with my mom, I started to open up to people at my work, and people would then open up to me like, I went through the same thing with my dad or my mom. Kidding. And it's like, my mom she walked off on her own the other day, and I had to go. Fortunately, she's not a very fast walker. She was down the block, went and got her. She was talking to a realtor who was showing a house, and I'm like, oh, sorry. She had someone on the phone. She was trying to figure out who this woman was. And I said, my mom's got dementia. She's like, oh, my dad has it. So, like, it's weird how it opens up the conversation, and you start, but there's a relief knowing that other people are going through it. It's such a hard thing to go through, but it's one of the best things I've done was letting people know I'm going through it, because then you realize, oh, I'm not the only one. It's the worst thinking you're the only one. You've been cursed with this situation, but you realize there's many of us going through it. And if there is signs of it increasing because of who knows what, that's definitely worth investigating for sure.
Absolutely. And I to just to personally, you know, from my experience, I will say that this is a very up and down emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
If you ever need anyone to talk to, I'll give you my number. Give me a call anytime.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Also, too, I will say this. When I was taking care of my grandmother, it was in the late 90s. It was 98 or 97 to 2008. And the internet wasn't prevalent back then.
Probably memory care type places weren't prevalent.
There were no support groups. There was nothing like that back then, but there is now.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it.
For sure.
Go to a support group. It's gonna. I will say that I really do think that it might be beneficial, especially since you said that, especially since you acknowledged the fact that when you opened up to people and they also are able to share their parallels. Yep. That it does something to your biochemistry. It literally does something inside of your body, not just your mental. It's not just like, oh, like your body actually goes, oh, wait a minute.
It's almost a stress relief.
Yes.
It's just like, oh my God, like it lightens the load on you because you know someone else is carrying it too.
Exactly. So take advantage of the resources you have, brother. And if you ever need to talk or something like that, dude,
I appreciate that.
I don't sleep anymore, so you can call me anytime. So
appreciate that.
All right, absolutely, brother. Okay, so check this out. So. All right, we're kind of coming towards the end here. We're gonna touch on a couple of whistleblower testimonies here. So, in fact, let me put my glasses on here.
I like a good whistleblower story.
Yeah, I know. Fucking Snowden and all that. There we go. All right, so we got it up on the screen. All right, so whistleblower testimony. Kristen, so I'm going to just kind of go over one real quick here. So Kristen Megan, Air Force industrial hygienist, witnessed and documented the ordering and delivery of massive amounts of barium, aluminum oxide, and strontium without proper hazard paperwork. And she also warned of clandestine military projects involving atmospheric manipulation. Some other witnesses consist of ex-commercial pilots and aircraft maintenance workers. They claim that specialized spray nozzles have been being retrofitted into planes, that hidden contracts and confidentiality clauses have been being introduced, and so essentially that there's multiple credible insiders confirming the reality of the clandestine spraying operations.
Right.
And then, two, we will definitely... I'm going to take you guys for a quick second into a couple of charts and some things that I kind of had drawn up for this particular episode. But I wanted to kind of summarize two quick scientific and medical studies, an article and a medical study here. So the title of this is peer-reviewed scientific article here. It's titled Human and Environmental Dangers Posed by Ongoing Global Tropospheric Aerosolized Particulates for Weather Modification. The author was J. Marvin Herndon, and it was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. It wasn't published in fucking Clyde's, scientific fucking, magazine. It was fucking peer-reviewed, published, boom. All right, the summary. This study presents chemical analysis comparing rainwater and air particulate samples to the known composition of coal fly ash, a toxic byproduct of coal combustion. Herndon concludes that the aerosolized particulate matter found in the atmosphere closely matches coal fly ash, suggesting a covert geoengineering program is dispersing this material into the troposphere. The paper warns of potential harm to human health, ecosystems, and climate balance, and calls for further investigation into the use of aerosolized toxic compounds in climate modification initiatives. Okay, now that's just a summary of that. So guys, go read the entire study. Again, it was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health by J. Marvin Herndon. And so go take a look that up. It should be fairly easy enough to look up on YouTube. Number 2, medical article on health effects. Now, the title of this is the Chemtrails and written question, Chemtrails and Health Concerns, published by European Parliament. European Parliament published this. The summary states, this official European Parliament response addresses public concern about the presence of chemtrails, and their possible health effects. It references cases where white trails linger abnormally in the sky and mentions reports of increased respiratory illnesses and environmental degradation in affected areas. The article notes the need for increased transparency and scientific scrutiny, urging further investigation into the composition of lingering trails and their impact on air quality and public health. Go read that. Go read that, everybody. So we're coming to the conclusion here. We're coming up to kind of towards the end here, but I wanted to kind of touch on global governments and geoengineering agendas, the whys.
Right.
So United Nations programs, we have a solar radiation management program, which is discussions openly advocate atmospheric aerosol deployment as a method to combat climate change. We've known that. We've talked about that. Bill Gates funding. That dude is a piece of shit, bro. I am so sorry. We talked about him in the Georgia Guidestones episode, and I showed 2 or 3 clips on here with him talking in a TED Talk, talking about how we can more easily depopulate the world using vaccines. Depopulate the world. Yes, dude. We can lower the population of the planet by using I'm not kidding you. And he goes in. There was another one about with him and Klaus Schwab talking, saying the exact same thing. He was like, "What do you want to leave as your legacy on this world?" You got to watch that. It's crazy. It's episode number 3 of this show. We talk about that. We show video, all kinds of stuff from the Georgia Guidestones. So check that out, by the way. But Bill Gates, back to Bill Gates, the piece of shit. Okay, so Bill Gates funding. Guy should be nowhere near
How do you really feel about
a medical facility. Fuck that guy. All right, Bill Gates has funded Harvard's geoengineering research that proposes spraying calcium carbonate into the stratosphere to block sunlight. Why? This guy is playing God. You talk about playing God. This guy's playing God.
So what you do when you got all that money?
Not cool, dude. Go enjoy a beach. Go enjoy a fucking beach. Have a drink, a beach. Your wife's leaving you, and she wasn't that pretty.
These guys just, again, want to live on forever through, not physically, but through their acts. And I, again, building rockets to Mars, dude. Like, be the first one to get to another planet. You know, it's just like, they got nothing better to do than that, though. These people are not people like you and I would go, I'm going to go open a bar in Cabo and chill for the rest of my life now. Game over. I'm done. These guys, they live for that grind. They live for something more to elevate themselves. Again, but goes back to humans acting like gods.
I understand, and I completely agree with what you said. But I will say, I think there's a clear contribution to humanity when you're building rockets and trying to do things like that. But when you're trying to geoengineer the planet to have less sunlight, like when you're the unilaterally decide to fucking, I'm going to work with governments behind the backs of the people, the 8 billion people on Earth, to block out the sunlight. That's an evil fucking villain.
I know, but again, like, the back of my head tells me, though, that these guys are talking to the elite. And again, whether they're right or wrong. They are the elite. They're part of the elite. But I mean mentally elite, too. These guys have gone to some fine schools. Again, not saying they're right or wrong. I need to hear the conversation. I want to hear the voices of the people in the room that he's talking with. They're like, hey, this is possible. Like, who is it? Robert Downey Jr. said once, and again, Robert Downey Jr. thinking he's Tony Stark, probably was in his Tony Stark mode, but he's like, if the elite all just got together, we could clean the planet up in like a week or something, dude. And it's like, could we not? I don't know. But it's like, who the hell are you talking to? I don't get to have a conversation with these people. Like, someone's either feeding you bullshit or feeding you real intelligence, but the majority of us don't get in that room to have that conversation. So you got a very small percentage making these decisions for us. And we're all left out of it, you know. That's what sucks. We're being led by people who we don't get to see.
And again, the actions that these people, not even the fucking motivations, the pure actions behind are what is happening are absolutely criminal, in my opinion, in some cases. Now let's take it back to the example of building a rocket to Mars. Not criminal. Unknowingly spraying the population with heavy metals to block out the sunlight without their knowledge, pretty fucking criminal.
Well, let's go back to that rocket. The theory is, like Elon said, a lot of rockets are going to crash before they succeed, and that's what I'm saying is, like, Bill Gates has blocked the sun out. That's a rocket that might crash, but it's like, will we learn something from it? But I think that's the human mindset is, we know rockets are going to crash. These rockets are going to crash, but we'll have the ability to keep building until one finally succeeds. And when you're playing with stuff like the environment, our one rocket we live on, like, is that something you want to be messing with?
Absolutely not. You're absolutely right. No, you do not. That's why Bill Gates is in the heavy wrong here, and Elon Musk is nowhere near that. Like, that's, I mean, and I totally get the concept of, like, and agree, like, these people have so much fucking money that, like, what are they doing with their lives? This is the type of shit that they're doing. They're doing these ultimate huge gestures of,
they think they're advancing humankind, is
right?
what they think,
and to some extent, sometimes they are contributing to that. Sometimes they can be. Okay, let's take Ray Kurzweil for instance. You know who Ray Kurzweil is? Yeah. So Ray Kurzweil, you ever heard of the Kurzweil keyboard, the piano, Kurzweil piano? Mm-hmm. So he has a piano, but he's also a leading mind in the manufacturing of nanotech and medical advancement. So he is saying that we should, in our lifetimes, should be living into the 200s. Right. Just simply from nanotechnology. Right. That we should be able to be accessing age triple what we're accessing now. Yeah. And that we should be able to be replacing limbs with nanotechnology, replacing organs with nanotechnology, and cybernetics and things along those lines. Like, talking about, like...
But then you got to ask yourself, is that a good thing? We have a finite resource on the planet, and again, maybe we can create our own stuff eventually, but is extending someone's, like... Again, go back to Alzheimer's thing.
We're playing God.
I know. We're
playing God.
It's instinct. Kids want to break away from their parents as soon as they can. We want to break away from our God as soon as we can. As soon as we can, and prove to ourselves that we can fly on our own. So it's like, it's that ego, it's that everything that just drives us to cross lines. Maybe we shouldn't.
Agreed, and absolutely, and like, just personally, like, when I was like 16, like, I went to church a little when I was a youth group and in my teens and things like that. And then when I was about 16, 17, I kind of just drifted away from God. I went and found my own thing and decided on my own life and stuff. But over the last few years, I've, again, not to get off topic here, but kind of just going on, kind of trying to piggybacking on what you said, like, I actually found God again, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for not being, like, not going off and, like, doing my own thing and just being a fucking idiot and for so long. Like, recently, I feel like and it's been a huge benefit to me. And again, this is me. This is my personal journey, and I feel like, I feel like, in general, like, we're talking about, like, these people want to play God. Right. They want to, and then like you said, you want to get away from your parents as soon as you can. When you want to go start your own thing. But there's a point. There's always a point when you come back and you call your mom and you go, "Hey, man, I was fucking wrong, dude. Like, you were right about. What an idiot I was in my early 20s and my late teens. You mature, and then you want to be around your parents again.
Yeah. Or you finally really appreciate what they did too. It's like, damn, dude, you monitored me every day till I finally bailed out of the house. Like, I remember one day I was in the gym. I looked around. I was like, I just had my first child. I remember looking around, I was like, every one of these people had parents that just took care of them to get to this point, to help them get to this point. It blew my mind, but you forget that. And then when you are a parent, you realize, again, getting off topic, but it's like, good. But it's a trip when you realize, I mean, my wife and I, when you have a kid, either your wife or you are basically handcuffed to that child until they're able to kind of maybe go to school a little bit, but you're still feeding them meals, you're doing this. Like, it's crazy. I have now my second child, he's about to turn 18, go to college after, he'll be a senior next year, but it's like, you realize how much time you put into that stuff and how much attention you need. And again, watching them wanting to break away from that attention too, and again prove to themselves I can do this on my own. I'm a man. I'm a parent. I'm a person. I'm a adult now, so it's a trip. But it's again, I can't blame people for acting that way because we all do it.
And I yeah, exactly. And talking about and touching on our personal experiences with our parents and that dynamic of wanting to go away from your God or your parents or whatever, like that, coming back to the point, I think, is that these people aren't God.
Right.
They're not our parents.
Right.
They don't have the right to do things along the lines of modifying our fucking environment without our express consent. And to be honest with you, the nanotechnology thing, I don't really. I mean, they're not forcing it on us. At least there's that with that. You know what I mean? The rocket thing, not everybody has to go in the rocket.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not everybody has to, be crushed by the rocket. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there are certain levels that we can weigh here, but these people are not God, and they need to stop playing God.
I feel they've convinced themselves that it's for the benefit of the people, and I think that's how they get away with these things. Like, of course, it's for the good of the people. Let's just try it, and if it doesn't work, we classify it, and no one has to know about these things. But I do think again, it's two things: either they truly are for the good of the people, or there's profit involved. I think the two driving forces of it, and sometimes both. But it's like, again, leads you back to the patents and all that other discussion. But yeah, I like to think guys like Bill Gates, I got mixed views on him, so I'm not as hardcore anti as you are, but
shithead. I'm just kidding.
And listen, I'm the kind of guy too, like, I'm all over the place with politics, but I got Trump fans.
Listen, man,
Biden. Dude, I don't even care. I judge you by your actions and stuff.
There you go.
First and foremost. So, but yeah, I don't know. Government too. I think I feel a lot of people in government go in there looking to do good, but they get corrupted by the system, and then it's like all these weird ideas start circulating, and then you get these chemtrails type of topics come up, and like, shit, okay, I'll get on board on that, and then things spin out of control. They're successful, and the successful things we hear about and the non-successful things get either brushed off as conspiracy, as some wacky thoughts, and try to be pushed aside, or turn out to be true years later on, and you find out, oh wait, this is real.
So like these people, politicians have a very similar thing. Teachers have a very similar thing. They all get into this with a mentality and of I'm gonna help.
Right.
I'm gonna help the kids. I'm gonna help my community. I'm gonna help the environment. I'm gonna help whatever it is. Right. One word answer. I want a one word answer to this question. Where does that go wrong, especially in when you're trying to do something for the betterment of the people? One word answer. Where does that go wrong?
What do you mean? Like, what causes that?
What's the main thing that you can point to?
I mean, money or corruption. Yeah,
it's fucking money, dude.
Or power.
Yeah, but I mean,
power is kind of hand in hand with money.
Almost always goes back to money, because those people who wanted to be in positions of power wanted to be in those positions of power to help.
Yeah.
Because they had a positive outlook on their community, on helping their fellow man and things like that. But it's always when money rears its ugly head and goes, hey, if you vote this way, we'll give you this. And then it's that thing we were talking about earlier, where it's like, well, you make one bad decision, and then somebody's got to clean it up.
Yeah.
And you're making another bad decision, and you're just clean up the thing.
Snowballing.
You snowball out of control. Then these politicians and these scientists and everybody who does this, who goes about things in this fashion, we finally get to this place.
It's funny though. This is making me think. Money feeds the ego. Ego creates the God. The godlike thought. It's when we're talking about it, it brings me back to that God conversation of humans thinking they have these godlike powers. And I think money, I think money is the root of it, but I think money creates the ego, makes you feel like I'm drive a Tesla, or I drive a Maserati. We live in Newport. You just see it all the time. These guys, people surround themselves with wealth to try and elevate themselves.
Right.
And it's really doesn't make you any better. It makes, to me, from my observances, like some of my best friends are the poorest people I know.
Sure.
They're the most interesting people because they got real life stories. These rich people surround themselves with stories, surround themselves with this fake sense of self. But I think money allows them to cover themselves with that, and then feeds that I'm greater than the common man, you know, like these Bill Gates, Elon Musk, where it's
Interesting.
like, and then it feeds that ego of, but wait, I can help these people. I can help these peasants, you know? And it's like, no, you're screwing it up for all of us, dude. You're ruining my playground that I live on, that I have just as much right to as you guys do, but you feel like you have the power over all this. This earth exists for all of us.
Right.
And yet you've got a handful of people pulling the strings, like, oh, let's try chemtrails. Let's try this. You know, you just don't know what they're doing, but they have the ability that we don't to try these things. And maybe they still think in their minds that they're bettering this space for everyone. But, you know, some of us on the sidelines are like, no, dude, you're screwing it up. Just chill out. You know, let's talk about this before you guys go head first into something.
Right.
And that you think you're convinced is better, is for the betterment of us all. So it's a big problem. But yeah, money for sure.
Right.
Is what lights the fuse that creates that
right.
chaos.
And that's a double-sided coin too. It's because you have the politician or the person accepting the money to do the thing that's not in their value, to do the thing that's outside of their parameters of their values, and then you have the person who's paying, who's using the money as a resource to essentially get
influence.
Yes, is that to play God.
Right.
And you see what I'm saying? So it's a very, you know what I mean? So
by the way, on the politician thing, it blew my mind when I found out how much of their work week is actually used on just getting funds to get them reelected.
That's
and how
crazy.
little actual work of why they're there is being done. That's a whole nother topic, but that's supports your point of like, it's all about just keeping that money train going, you know, and it's like satisfying whoever it is it's coming from, which certainly isn't for me because I'm trying to raise a family, you know. I don't have the extra guy, but if I'm a big private, I mean, you got defense places right down the street, you know, that. So it's wild, man. People are playing games that we aren't even part of.
Yep, and people like me and you are out there, exactly. You and me are out there living our lives, trying to contribute the best we can to society, our families, our the people we love the most and are closest to us. We try and making better lives for everyone around us,
right.
You know, with our actions, with our our innovations and implementations of our thoughts and whatever we want to bring to society,
right?
You know, but a lot of times people like us don't have the time to even dig deep into a topic like chemtrails,
right.
And to see what's going on in there, or even want to know,
right?
Because they have so much other stuff. They're just like, dude, I got fucking kids to worry about,
that's
dude.
Bottom of my priority list, right? Chemtrails is here. Feeding my family's here. I'll get to that if I get to that.
And I think that even that my point there is that there's a larger issue in the people playing God, and the people taking money to do the shit that they shouldn't be doing, that lays outside of their value of their parameters. I mean, their values. It lays outside their values. It's not the reason they got into politics in the first place or science in the first place. That's where things go haywire.
Right.
That's where it all kind of goes off the rails, you know? And as far as power goes, I do think that politicians and scientists and everyone else, they get into this for the right reasons. I think they have the right reasons.
Most of them,
Most of them do.
Yeah.
There are the few out there that have the power hungry thing that I want to fucking rule. You know,
or just come from a privileged life and they're like, I want to keep this privileged life going, dude, and I got to be in this space to do that. So yeah.
But we have. I think that there's enough people that are, like I said, that have their lives going on, and they don't even not only are they unwilling to look at the chemtrail thing, but they're even unwilling to look at the fact that their elected representatives are taking funds to represent them in a way that they didn't vote for.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Don't you think society knows that as a majority? I mean, how many after like car dealer isn't like government official, like the lawyers,
The next,
like that, like the people
shady ass fucking
like
job.
You tell me, hey, corruption's happening in government, we're like, yeah, no shit, dude. Like, we just kind of brush it aside, you know.
Exactly.
That's what's crazy is like we know it's happening, yet we just ignore it because we're
Yes.
so busy with our own lives
That's
to do
what it
anything
is.
about it.
That's what it is. And we think we're too small. There's a number of reasons, you know. We think we're too small. We don't think there's enough, you know. But yes, I mean, but yeah. So that a lot of that is allows things like this to happen.
This type of experimentation.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying is like, and they know it. It's
Yep.
they know it's like we can hide it, or people are too busy. We can create another distraction over here, and people want to say, yeah, dude. I mean,
Yep.
that's the thing. I feel like we're talking about obvious stuff, but no one, society as a whole is not able to hit the brakes on certain things.
Yeah.
And just be like, let's fix this. We know what's wrong. Let's fix this.
You know, what's funny too is you say we're talking about obvious stuff, but it's something that people fail to acknowledge. Obvious or not, people are for one reason or another are failing to acknowledge it, identify and acknowledge that it exists and it's real.
Yeah.
And that goes to the fact that there is no public referendums.
Yeah.
There's little to no disclosure about possible environmental health side effects. What's going on? There's not been a large push from journalism, from academia, from anybody really, especially little old me and you,
Right.
to look into it, to stop it, to ring the bell.
That's the other thing, though. Like, how many more voices are out there like you and I that are talking about that? But now, I mean, there used to be, 3 channels back in the day. Everyone's watching the same stuff. Now it's just the fucking
and they might as well
Gatling gun blast of information out there that you can go on. And it's like, if you find it and get behind it and have the time to get behind it, like, all those things have to hit up for change to come. So I think it's even more difficult now just because there's so many things that can get your attention and distract you.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, my kid watches little 6 seconds or whatever on TikTok. It's like our brains,
scoop.
we can't stay focused on one thing. Most kids can't watch a full movie these days, dude. Like, how are they going to solve the world's problems, dude? And it's like, is that all a bigger plan? Is that all a bigger plan to dumb down the population so these elites can get away with everything? It's like, you know, their kids,
you're on to something.
No, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious if you hit the brakes and look around you. And I just don't think enough people are doing it. I think we're so caught up in our day.
Smart man.
And life's gotten so difficult and challenging that it's like...
Why would we want to take on the biggest task of moving the mountain?
Yeah.
You know, of course, you're absolutely right.
We've been so defeated before we started to make change. It's like you sit there and you look at this mountain of like, I'm gonna figure this thing out. And you look at how long and hard it's going to be and how much money it's going to take to fight back. And it's just like, forget it, dude. It's David and Goliath, dude, but worse.
It is, but I'll tell you something. There is one thing, there's an aspect, and I'll reference the Constitution here. There's I believe it's the 4th Amendment, which is the right to assemble.
Right.
It's the right it's the right of assembly.
Right.
We're not just you and I. We are a mass of voices. We just don't. There's a disconnect between of how to collect those voices together in, you know, and amplify as one. Right. That is the challenge, I think, and I think that. I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. You know, I think that a lot of people look at the overall and they say, oh well, you know, I got my family, I got to feed my kids, I got to do this and that and the other thing. I would like to move that mountain, but I can't do it on my own, and I don't really know.
It's funny you bring this up. When you say that, I think of power to the people. And
exactly.
what I think
we're talking
we
about.
forgot about our politicians, what I think our politicians have forgot about is they're servants of the people.
What I just said.
And
exactly.
they've got it so twisted where we feel like we're serving them.
Correct.
And that we are obligated to them.
Correct.
And I'm waiting for a politician to run and just say, I'm a servant of you. Put me to work.
They're representing us.
This is a job interview for me to get elected. No one does that.
That's exactly what it is. A political position, a position of public service is exactly
service
that.
To the people, yeah.
Exactly that. And we actually we elect them to represent our
voice. You're my voice, the way of thinking.
Regionally.
Yeah.
That's why we have our regionally elected representatives, you know, so we can tell them we want our swath or our region, our area to have these values, and these subsets should be legal and illegal here.
Right.
You know, and then the state government all they should do is make sure that they are representing our interests the way we voted.
Yeah.
And all the federal government should do is the same thing on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Making sure that the state is making sure that our interests are being represented.
Exactly.
That is the only fucking thing they should be doing.
Totally.
Anyway, so that brings us to the conclusion here. The why, the fucking whys, the multi-layered agendas, the weather control for profit and warfare, depopulation and health weakening to aid pharmaceutical industries and governmental control. That's another thing too. Is there's so much fucking money in pharma nowadays that like doing this and causing even the smallest amount of chronic illness, respiratory or circulatory or whatever it may be. All that does is it's an extra added bonus for them to boost their bottom line.
Bro, and how many side effects are at the end of those commercials too? It's like, we'll fix this problem, but we're going to give you 20 million other issues you're going to have to deal with. And guess
anal
what? We have a
leakage,
drug. We have another drug for that too, by the way.
Pop out,
It's anal leakage. Like, what the fuck?
Yes,
you
dude.
said that out loud? Come on. Like, it's just,
know,
so, it's all a racket.
It's crazy, right?
But we want quick fixes. Again, the chemtrails, it's all kind of, we want quick fixes to our problems.
Dumb as
hell. And it's like, why not just do the hard right thing that's going to have a better long-term effect, or we can just do this short, or keep kicking on the short-term effect and probably fuck more stuff up doing that,
Agreed. And we have climate engineering to maintain an illusion of fighting climate change while profiting from disasters. We have future implications, altered DNA, because we don't know what the fuck this is doing to our bodies and our bloodstreams and our systems. Ecosystem collapse. We don't know what it's going to do to the soil. We already know that it's negatively affecting the soil and the water, and we're having actual tree and plant life die off. That's correlated to the whens and the wheres of the aerosol dispersion.
Bro, the richest man on our planet is trying to get off our planet. What does that tell you, though? I mean, either it's an ego thing where he wants to be the first one to
talk about
or he's like, dude, this ain't going in the right direction.
Right.
We are not doing the right thing. So it's, I mean, sure, it's a lot of things, but that should be a little bit of a red flag there.
Right. Well, there's something there, So we have, and then we have a dependence on corporate controlled resources and full spectrum dominance of the environment. So, question for you.
Yep.
Is public awakening enough to dismantle the secret spraying programs? Is public awakening enough to get them to stop doing it?
No, public action is necessary.
Okay.
We just being aware of it is
how do we reclaim sovereignty over our skies?
I mean, it's undeniable proof that damage is being done, that these things are leading to this. I mean, it's research, and there's always going to be counter. I mean, it's a game. It's a basketball game. Is my team better than your team? Are we better equipped? Are we better prepared for this? You're always going to have conflict and resistance from another side on anything, probably. On that topic, if you just got to have real information. You got to be able to amplify it in a way where enough people are like, you're right, this is wrong. I mean, fucking World War II, enough people finally said, enough with all that shit. Let's send some people. I don't know. It takes a lot to get the masses riled up. I overheard a conversation about how just people are getting screwed. Like the 1% is separating even further from the rest of us. And it's like, it made me think of the French Revolution, when finally enough of the lower class people finally just said, this is the balance of this is off, dude. This is wrong. The rich keep getting richer and we keep getting poorer. And enough's enough. They go behead the king, then as well, whatever. It's just like,
that's how revolutions happen.
I feel like the country's in that space where it's like, when do we get to that French Revolution space where like people are like, I mean, we kind of have we've seen signs of it, but we're, to your point, how much do you need?
I think voting in Donald Trump is part of that. Actually, I think the people were so fucking tired of the same status quo government, lying to us, manipulating us, not representing our interests as we've voted on over the last multiple decades. Right. And I think voting in Donald Trump was a big fuck you to the establishment.
I just think enough of inactivity, just enough. To me personally, Donald Trump was just like, let's just fucking go in a different direction for a second, see what happens.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
It's a bit of an experiment. I think we're in that experiment.
About turning their backs on the people who have repeatedly shown that they're not willing to represent our interests. And I will go as far as to say, remember you said earlier that I want a politician to stand up and say, hey, I'm an elected representative for your interests. Like, put me to work. I'm a servant of you. Donald Trump has literally said that. He has said that exact thing. So again, I feel like we got that. I feel like we have that now, and the reason we have it is because we've been fucked over so many times by the people we've tasked to do the best thing for us.
I would argue back though. Again, I don't really take sides in politics. I just kind of what I observe on a daily basis. But I would say Trump, from what I've observed, only the elite and the rich have increased their wealth, and everyone else is like, fuck, my eggs are still way too expensive. My milk's still, it's like I don't see the people who are hurting not hurting anymore. The economy's not great. 401ks are not great. I think he's doing good, but not for the majority of people that need it. So again, that's just from my observancy, from what news sources, we
can go because that actually starts a long conversation about economy, and actual so you mentioned stock. First of all, there's the 2 or 3 things you mentioned in there. Like one, stock market. Let's take that for a second. Yep. Over the Joe Biden presidency, the stock market was down significantly more than it is now. In fact, this slight dip that we had when Trump threw these tariffs off wasn't even a blip on the radar compared to what we were in the last 4 years of the Joe Biden presidency. It's giant disparity of the actual numbers there. Right. As far as the economy goes, let's put this into perspective. So first term, everybody talks about trickle down economics doesn't work. So let's address that for a minute. Donald Trump didn't do trickle down economics. What he did was four major things. He lowered taxes on the average Joe. He lowered taxes on businesses across the board. Yep. He got rid of the trade deals, NAFTA, TPP, all the bullshit that was allowing that Clinton put in, and was allowing us to use child labor in other countries and get 2 cents an hour ties made and all that shit. And then he put a major tariff on any domestic product that was being manufactured overseas. Yep. So this all correlates together. So what happens is when the trade deals are pushed aside and the countries the domestic companies can no longer use that type of labor legally, and when then they have to manufacture either here or they have to do it. They can still manufacture overseas. They just got to do it legally. Yeah. So when they brought each unit would come back with a 35% tariff on it if it was manufactured overseas. Apple, Ford, all of them came back because it was more beneficial to bring their manufacturing plants to the United States and use American labor now than it was to use cheap foreign labor because we were being taxed to over an insane amount just to do it there. So essentially he was putting in punishment for those companies that want to go over and use overseas cheap labor. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Bring it back. And not only did those companies come back to the United States, Apple, Ford, and certain companies, but foreign companies started coming to the United States and opening manufacturing plants here and using American labor. But it was also because of the tax benefits that businesses had acquired during the time of his presidency, lowering those taxes. So when the manufacturing base comes back to the United States, that puts more people to work. Right. The unemployment drastically dropped. Twice, actually, was the lowest it had ever been in this country under Trump. And it was because of the fact of him saying, we're going to punish you if you manufacture your products overseas or in any other country. Bring it back to the United States, use American labor where the average Joe, so now the average Joe has more money in their wallet on their taxes. Businesses can scale now because they have to pay less taxes. Right. There's incentive for them to come back because the business taxes are so low. Right. And there's actually a punishment or a negative for them to use overseas labor. Right. So that was the reason in his first term that the economy boomed in such a way so fucking fast. Right. And he's in his how far are we in? 5 months to his first term? Sure. Eggs are down. Eggs are back down. They're not back down to where they were
Yeah.
when we started, when Joe Biden started this crazy mess.
Yeah.
But they're on their way back down. 401ks, everything's going to return to normalcy. I can't speak to what will happen. I assume that things will level themselves out over the next year or two, and hopefully we'll start to get things under control.
There's just so much instability based on how our democracy is set up. You got a president for 4 years, 8 years if he good and elected. You got guys like Putin. What's he on? Year 20 or whatever he's on. Somehow
Not American.
You got
Not
Xi
relevant.
of China, but I'm just saying you have some stability in governance and direction of where the country's going. Not whether, again, not a Putin fan. Fucking they might as well be mafia guys.
I know what you're saying.
But
You're
what I'm saying? There's some
the-
consistency. We don't have European countries going, we're just gonna have to wait out this period and then we'll get some. Again, I've yet to find a politician that I've fallen in love with and go, this person is amazing.
Right.
Again, I feel like most of our politicians have been corrupted. And it's just and again
you're right.
To Trump too. Yes, I think it's smart to build as much as we can in our own country. You got to ask yourself, and this kind of in a way leads back to chemtrails, these quick fixes or these easier fixes. Well, why did everyone go to why did we send all our factories to China, Mexico, everywhere? Because one, they don't give a shit about their environment. They'll pollute their environment. Or two, they'll get young kids to put to work, child labor.
Yeah.
There's no
exactly,
and we'll turn a blind eye to that for
okay.
a cheaper product.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, but we're just to blame as much to blame as that for allowing that. And this is my bigger thing about it. I've always thought, we look at a map and you see these lines drawn that identify countries, but we're fucking. China pollutes their waters. It comes back. Something happens in Japan, it washes up on our shores. India does something, we're gonna feel like the
United States knows all of that and still outsources our work there until Trump.
Yeah, again. Bottom of the list.
So wait a minute. So we
can't get together and call that out and say it's wrong because again we're so busy with our day-to-day lives. It's like we know it's wrong. We know it. I know it's wrong. Yes, everything should be made. iPhone should be made here if it can. We should go back to American cars should be well built again. But it's just like.
Right.
But again, there's some self-pride of your country actually making something. I feel we've been stripped of that.
And the reason and you made a lot of good points about how China and other countries are not as responsible as we are ecologically in general. But the simple fact of the matter is that if that's the case, then we shouldn't be allowing our American products to be produced overseas and to be contributing to that type of pollution.
But why do it? Because they're affordable. They're not. The shit's not affordable if you make it here because we can't even produce it. We don't have the factory set up. We don't have the infrastructure.
We do now.
I wouldn't
it's
say
already come, no,
to say it's for everything though. I got a guy that makes bags.
Sure.
He was smart enough to get his business. He gets most of them built out of Vietnam. He saw like Patagonia, all these places.
Of course,
leaving China. Lucky for him because the tariffs were canceled on Vietnam. He said if my shit was being made in China, I'd be out of business right now.
My point is that you can listen. If I say I run faster than people in a wheelchair, that's generally a true statement. Now, you're going to have a guy in a wheelchair who's going to be able to beat me every once in a while. Do you see what I'm saying? Who's an Olympic wheelchair racer or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But that doesn't negate the big picture, reality of the situation. You see what I'm saying? You can't take small swaths of things and say, well, that's the rule now. That's how that's how it is. When we have what you're talking about is right. Like there is cheap labor overseas, but is it ethical?
No.
Is it ethical to use children to build your iPhone? No. Is it ethical to allow our phones to be built and knowing that that the waste is going to be dumped into the Pacific Ocean? But as long as we're not doing it, it's okay. That doesn't make any sense. It's bringing the manufacturing jobs back to the United States, I in my opinion, was a good thing.
Yeah.
And my opinion, not a bad thing, was a good thing, and like the lowering of tax. Like I said, the 4-tier economic plan that he put into place the very first time did nothing but positive things for the United States.
Yeah.
I don't see any. I mean, really, but I'm not the fucking I don't know everything. So it's like, if I don't know something, like I would like to know it. I'm not.
I think what opened
I don't
my
know
eyes,
everything.
I think what opened my eyes was when the pandemic, when we didn't have enough masks for people and stuff. And again, whether you were pro-mask or anti-mask, it was. And even medicines, stuff that were getting produced outside our borders. I mean, you want to talk about the benefit or the protection of our people, the defense of us. If we can't get medication from another country, or we can't get certain things we need just for the quality of life, or the security of life. That's what I'm saying. It's
medicines and masks. In fact,
there's certain things that for sure we should be building within our borders, because it's for the self-protection of ourselves and our people.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, as far like going back to that, the medication and masks, like it's come to light that like there were giant facilities in the United States full of shit like that, masks, the medicines and everything, and they were just left to be nothing. They were just left there to rot essentially the entire time. Yeah. A friend of mine, I was actually dating a girl back around that time who was one of the heads of the pediatric unit at one of the major hospitals out in San Bernardino. I can't remember the name of the hospital, but she told me that they had built an entire wing for COVID patients, like an entire outside thing, in their parking lot, never got used. Not one person came in. They're bullshit. She told me that they were getting paid so much money just for saying that somebody had COVID and treating them in a certain way. They would get paid for it. So I mean, that kind of goes back to the bigger issue of the government just lying to us in general. Well,
I'm trying to. I keep thinking, how are we bringing this back to chemtrails? But it makes me think of that what we were talking about. They may have started in their minds for the good of the people we're doing this, but it snowballs into a mistake, and then they keep compounding the mistake instead of admitting it and assessing the situation and going over. They're like, no, now this is a problem. We can patch this thing up, and it's like, bro, you're spending more money and
the
time.
Negative snowball route. So, and that kind of takes me back to the first question I asked, which really can't be answered by either of us because we don't know. Which is, what is the potential positive altruistic reason that they could have had to do that in the first place? And I don't think there is one, but maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe there is a good positive thing that they were trying to do with that. I don't see it. But then again, like I said, we're just people who are living here. We're not the ones who are making the decisions. We weren't the ones who are, evaluating and saying, oh, well, we're going to put these, heavy metals into the atmosphere. So we didn't do it. We don't know.
I think I could maybe supply one possibility of an answer to that question. So I work in advertising. As I said at the beginning, I work in advertising. In advertising, I'm a writer. I'm paired with an art director. And that's a team. So you get a lot of times there's an assignment. Let's just say like Pepsi or something. You got a commercial. 3 teams compete to solve that brief and create the actual commercial. It's fun. It's fun to make a commercial, little mini movies, but it's a little competition, and you're trying to prove to your creative director, or in this case the president, or whoever's the decision maker, hey, yeah, you got 3 ideas in front of you, but this one's the best, and here's why, and this is why everyone's gonna enjoy it. I would assume something like Chemtrails was again a board of people. We
have this, and this,
and 3 groups, and they're like, hey, and you got one group that specializes in this space.
But why? What's the reason? Give me the
guess
positive.
They would say the benefit of the environment. I think the easiest thing to sell to someone is it's the benefit of the people. The soil. I don't know.
Give me a specific.
The air will
benefit.
get clean. The air will get cleaner.
By putting heavy metals into it.
The ozone. I mean, like I said, that old discussion about the hole in the ozone that was from me. Just enough to just get that farce going or whatever, to where it's like, hey, we can build off of that fear.
I'll be honest with you, somebody would have to be pretty fucking dumb for you to try and for you to buy the idea that we're gonna spray heavy metals into the air and it's gonna make the air cleaner. I think that would be pretty. I think somebody to blindly buy that from the government would be.
We do it every day. If people spray air freshener in their bathrooms, that shit can't be good to inhale.
I don't
my wife loves fucking spraying Raid in the house. I'm like, dude, do you know what we're breathing in? So it's like, we're doing it ourselves, dude. Our cleaning products in our house alone are tearing up shit. Yeah. So I don't know. I just think it's, again, a dumbing down of the population to be like, fucking people are snorting computer cleaner, dude. Like, We're not that smart.
That's
I think
wild to me.
humans get more credit than we deserve on being these caretakers of the planet, dude. Like, how many species are we responsible for extinction? You know, it's crazy, dude. Like, so it's like we don't really think about our consequences until they hit us in the face.
A lot of times that's absolutely true, and we definitely talked earlier about humanity not doing this planet a big service. You know what I mean? As far as ecology goes.
I think we can fix everything. Do again the God complex.
Right.
If I create a problem, I can fix it.
Right.
And it's like, fuck, some things you can't, dude. Or you can't do it in time.
Like sometimes, like you said, we have to take a step back. Stop. Stop fucking what you're doing. Stop fucking it up for a minute.
We all need to hit the brakes.
Take a step back and assess this bigger picture and say, okay, like maybe we should just give it some time. Mm-hmm. Maybe and a lot of times, and be honest with you, the Earth is a giant self-cleansing organism.
Yeah.
Given enough time, it will heal itself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, anyway,
I think our bodies are like the same. I would totally agree. I think I feel the same. I don't take a lot of medication myself,
right?
Because I've always felt like you do the right things, your body will find a way to cure itself.
Same. I am so against taking pills and shit like that, dude. Like, I smoke pot. Yeah, I don't drink. I smoke weed. That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing I put in my body other than food and water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, knowingly, chemtrail producers. I'm just kidding.
I gotta tell you a quick, real fun. I think you might appreciate this about the human body taking care of itself. Again, a little bit off topic, but we've been there. I had a back molar removed, and they're like, well, it's just like a tiny little back, the very, very back one on the back right. Dentist is like, I can replace that. We'll put a fake one in. It was like it was my adult molar. So he's like, I can totally replace that. We'll put this screw in. The whole process sounded painful and expensive. And I was like, bro, I'm fine with the rest of my teeth. I don't need that back one. I'm good. And she's like, okay. So he patches it up, and I've been good since. But a couple months ago, I felt something starting to protrude from my gums. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that can't be good. I wonder if my gums deteriorating, and then whatever that little base that they whittled it down to is now starting to pop out of my gum. So I go in for just a quick visit to have him look at it. And the dentist takes a quick look, takes this little pokey thing out, and he says, the first thing out of his mouth is like, the human body is so amazing. And I'm like, I was expecting, I was already writing a check in my head for how expensive this thing was going to be. He said, the human body is so expensive. What's happening right now is there was a loose piece of little tooth in there underneath your gums that we sewed you up. And your gums have slowly pushed that little shard out. And he took his thing, popped out. He's like, it's not in there anymore. Your body has rejected it. And it's fixed itself.
Yes.
And I bring this up because your point about the earth fixing itself, but I do think it's nature's way of solving its own problems for the most part.
Yes.
And we are probably the cause of more of the problems that it's trying to resolve.
I agree.
And we keep adding to that shit.
I agree. Yes, I totally agree. Now, everybody up on your screen, you can see that I've brought up a little diagram here of kind of just a little overview of some of the things that we talked about today. Some of these things consist of the historical programs that we spoke about, including Project Popeye from 1967 to 1992, Operation Large Area Coverage, dispersing particles over the U.S., and then scientific and environmental evidence, elevated aluminum, barium, and strontium in soil and water, climate shifts and global warming, global dimming, tree and plant die-offs, whistleblower testimony, ex-Air Force industrial hygienist insider gave you one of hers, the government patents, I ran you through a couple of those, the military documents, the health effects, global governance and geoengineering, and why they spray. This is kind of an overview of what we talked about today, you guys. And I wanted to also take you into this one too here. So I got a couple of these for you. So this one's chemtrail technology and patents. So this one kind of gives you a it overlays the patent on the left, and then it shows you exactly how the aerosol dispersion is done from these planes, where the storage tanks are, where the spray nozzles are, the aluminum oxide, barium salts, strontium, that's the chemical agents, and it shows you kind of if you look at the circle in the middle there at the bottom, it shows you the idea of how they blanket, of like the shape and the way that they blanket. And all right, Also here, we got a few testimonies from doctors and affected individuals. Dr. Russell Blaylock, neurosurgeon, says toxic chemical aerosols are systematically deposited in the air we breathe from jet aircraft as evidenced by chemtrails. Dr. Marvin Herndon, geophysicist, says, after 16 years of practicing medicine, I began seeing many patients with disorders that I believed were related to chemtrail exposure. Don Lucas from California, there is evidence that large amounts of nano-sized aluminum aerosols are being sprayed across the United States and in other countries. Dr. Stephen Verbanik says, I noticed persistent trails in the sky. Then I started experiencing headaches and difficulty breathing on days when they were present. So these are just a couple of the testimonies that I was able to grab for you guys, which actually come from quite a big, extensive list. Some of these, there was quite a bit of talk online about people who have actually experienced health effects from these chemtrails and from the heavy metals. So, guys, you might want to check that out. You might want to go online and look into it yourself and see what that is. Also, this is the data on aluminum, barium, and strontium exposure. Numerous studies have detected significant levels of these metals in soil, water, and biological samples. Increased concentrations have been measured, and you guys can read the below levels here as well. And our last one is the one that I showed you previously, and that's our overview. That's our overview for the day, for what we kind of went over for today. So you guys have been awesome today. Yeah, I mean, this has been a very interesting deep dive into chemtrails. I appreciate you coming, Mr. Whitting. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. Before we end, though, I do want to do one thing with you. I have a little guest. I have a little thing. Yeah, your memory might serve you well from this episode, but but some of these things are stuff we didn't talk about. So I am going to read you the title and description of a supposed U.S. patent related to atmospheric or environmental modification. You tell me if it's a real patent or a fake patent, and I'll reveal the terrifying truth after each one. Okay, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so this is, number one, is the title of the patent is The Method for Producing a Layer of Artificial Ionized Plasma in the Atmosphere. The description is a system designed to create a layer of plasma in the upper atmosphere potentially used for communication, disruption, or weather effects. Is that real or is that fake?
I think we talked about it. I'm going to say it was real.
Correct. Sure. That's one of the real ones. That's correct. That's U.S. Patent 5,360,162 from 1994. This is cited in HAARP-related discussions about electromagnetic manipulation of the ionosphere, actually. All right, so number two, the system and method for generating artificial rain via directed microwave bursts. The description, satellites direct microwave beams at cloud formations to agitate water molecules and induce rain.
It's good, true.
That one's fake.
Wow.
No publicly known patent exists with this exact mechanism. All right, the concept echoes real. It does echo real experiments.
You did say remains known, so technically
correct.
Could be
yeah,
true.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna take half credit.
Yes, the concept echoes real experiments with cloud ionization, but no microwave rain satellite patent is on the record yet.
Oh. Starlink's working on it.
Yeah, they got it. All right, so number three. The title, Stratospheric Welsbach Seeding for Reduction of Global Warming. Description, injecting metal particles, aluminum oxide, barium, into the upper atmosphere to reflect sunlight.
We talked about that in the
Yep, that's correct. That one's a real one. That's 5 million, U.S. patent 5,003,186 from 1991. This is one of the most cited patents in geoengineering discussions. Welsbach materials are used to manipulate solar radiation. So number four is... The title is Apparatus for Global Climate Control Using Subliminal Sonic Frequencies. The description is atmospheric manipulation via frequencies inaudible to the human ear transmitted from weather balloons. So atmospheric manipulation via frequencies inaudible to the human ear transmitted from weather balloons.
So sound waves create what's going on there? Sound waves can create weather effects.
So atmospheric manipulation. So we're manipulating the atmosphere via frequencies that are inaudible to the human ear that we can't hear, that are transmitted from weather balloons.
I'll say false.
False it is. You got that one right. All right. No existing patent matches this description. So, yeah, although sonic weapons do exist, no patented tech links subliminal frequencies to climate control yet.
And again, that's the thing. Just because it doesn't exist now doesn't mean it's not in the works.
Right. Or we don't know about it. Yeah, exactly.
Or classified.
Exactly. So, okay, number 5. The title is Process for Aerial Distribution of Reflective Particulates for Solar Radiation Management. So the description on this one is aircraft release aerosols designed to remain suspended in the stratosphere for long-term sunlight deflection.
What's being suspended? Like giant blimps or something?
No, so essentially they release aerosols like heavy metals, we talked about. They spray it in the air, and essentially it remains there.
So like high enough in the atmosphere where it can float and not re-enter
just not
back
come down.
into,
Yeah,
I mean that seems true.
It is
real. Little sun shields.
Closely mirrors U.S. patent 7,413,145 from 2008. This patent includes methods for aerosolized dispersion to impact global warming, very similar to real published research by geoengineers, actually. All right, so number 6. The title of this one is Portable Electromagnetic Weather Control Device. The description, a handheld or backpack-sized device capable of influencing local weather using pulsed magnetic fields. Now, let me say that again. It's a handheld,
like your cell phone,
like my cell phone, or a backpack-sized device, right. Okay, that is capable of influencing local weather using pulsed magnetic fields. So it's capable of changing the weather in your general vicinity when you turn it on.
I'm going to say false.
It's false. That one's false. There's no verified patent for a portable weather controller.
Yeah. Wait, now, to get a patent, do you have to show proof that it's possible or just have the idea that one day we'll be able to make this? Okay.
But I think that it's got to be like, the design has to be in the idea to some extent. Okay. Like the basic design. It can't just be like a... Oh, I imagine this. Let's put a patent on it. Yeah. Okay, so there is no verified patent for the portable weather controller, but weather modification is being worked on, but not at the Ghostbusters backpack level just yet. So so numbers. Last but not least, number 7, rocket-mounted dispersal system for atmospheric cloud seeding. The description is that rockets loaded with cloud seeding agents like silver iodide. That rockets are loaded with silver. Sorry, that rocket. The patent is for rockets that are loaded with cloud seeding agents like silver iodide to disperse at high altitudes.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, basically, what you're doing with planes, you're just going to start doing with rockets now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So essentially, that is real. Obviously, variants of this method are patented and actively used. Yeah. China and Russia have publicly admitted to using rocket-based seeding tech during droughts and during the Olympics. Actually.
Yeah.
So you have. So to end here, do you have any final thoughts for the audience?
I mean, it's funny. I would say I came and going, this is all bullshit. But, like, you do hear stuff, and when you really do, like I said, hit the brakes and just observe what's going on. I mean, we're in desperate times, I think, environmentally. I feel, again, whether you believe in global warming or not, you can't deny shit's getting hotter, or shit's just hot, or shit's getting extreme cold at times, too. There's just weather patterns shifting. Gersh and I talked about my in-laws live in Oklahoma. That's where my wife's from.
Just bought a house out there.
Yeah, but... Tornado Alley used to run right through the middle of Oklahoma. Like, you were screwed. I always go. I went to school out there, but I grew up in California. I was like, why would people live out here? But just through observancies, that whole Tornado Alley has shifted east to the right.
Yep.
Shifted east. Now, like Alabama and Tennessee, they're getting hit. Even East Coast again. So I don't blame humans for not just sitting back and allowing these things to happen and just accepting it. You're getting fires and Palisades. Money's involved. Especially when you get these high income places where these real people, live and stuff. Yeah, these flyover states, no one gives a shit, which is unfortunate because to me, those are real people. Those are the real people. But once money's involved, then it's like, oh, we better start protecting this stuff. Those voices are louder in those areas than here. So, desperate times sometimes call for desperate measures. And would I put it? It seemed when you think of all the things government has probably tried or we've heard about, this doesn't seem nearly crazy compared to some of the other. I mean, Star Wars, all that stuff, laser beams here and there. I've talked to someone in defense He couldn't tell me much, but I asked him, I said, are we safe? You always think like the arms race between us and China and some other places. He's like, John, I can't tell you anything. I can't tell you much, but I can tell you we're safe based on what I've seen. And this guy's seen stuff he claims like vice president wasn't privy to seeing. Like this guy was a rocket designer, but again, he didn't tell me any information, so I mean, I'd have to edit this stuff out. But I was shocked with the confidence he told me of like, we don't have to worry about our defense. The stuff I've seen is incredible. And so yeah, I feel like there's all this kind of scientific high-tech stuff that, again, that your we don't know what's going on. There's shit going on that's
we might not know, but we're capable. Our brains are so fucking capable. I think people sell themselves so much short on how capable, how much information they can process. I think people don't give themselves enough credit. They think greater minds than I.
No, I think I've always believed that the human mind can think it, the human can do it. Like you can do, and again, it may not be the version. Well, if you want to accomplish something, let's say Wright brothers, I want to fucking fly in the sky, dude. Like before that, people were like, you're crazy, dude. What are you thinking about? Now we got how short of a time from Kitty Hawk to now we're talking about planes do it with chemtrails. Think how short of a time that was from that first flight to where we are now, sending rockets to Mars. That was such a short time in human existence. Like where are we gonna be 100 years from now? Like it's just crazy. So yeah, we'll get smarter. AI probably is gonna enhance and accelerate our knowledge or I don't know how it's gonna affect. It's gonna be interesting to see that effect, but problem solving, you see fucking Watson on Jeopardy against our best minds just killing it, it's like, fuck, like we're capable of so much more. I think humans are still at their infancy. And I think when you're at that earlier, you've been talking about kids and adults, we're going to make mistakes as kids. I think humans are still in the kid-like stage. I don't think we're this advanced as we like to think we are. I think we're doing a lot of things wrong. And what compounds it is trying to do more wrong things to correct those.
That's absolutely correct, and I think that chemtrails is one of those things.
I would agree.
So just to bring this back, so you think that after this episode that you've opened your mind a little bit to the chemtrail possibilities?
I don't put it beyond that shit's happening now, whether it's happening at a mass level, and again in other countries too, like North Korea and shit.
We're not here to surmise, one way or the other the scale.
I would not put
we just
that.
Talked about.
For
we
sure
just explored.
for sure would not put that past.
Okay,
humans.
all right. So
it's worth investigating.
Would it be safe to say that after the episode, that from the beginning of the episode to the end of the episode, that there's a little more of an open mind to the subject now?
Yeah. I would say I wasn't a closed door coming into it, but that door's a little more open to but I'm the kind of, I think I would encourage more people like that, but I'm the kind of person that's like, one, get as much information on the subject. Totally. Like I said, listen more than you speak.
That's right.
Absorb, then draw a conclusion.
Sure.
And also check your sources. I think that's a huge thing
for
our audience to know. You did a good job telling people where they can find this information. But I get so much shit sent to me that people, and then you do just a quick investigation on your own. Like, dude, this is bullshit.
Yeah,
this is the problem.
30 seconds of research usually tell you the reality of the situation.
Dude, if you just do a little homework. But again, I was thinking on this on the way in too. Society, unfortunately, again, going back to our kids watching just little 6-second clips, like we read headlines and then we don't read the rest of the story. It's like we're just quick. I got the quick summary of something and I'm done. I know everything about it. You're like, you don't know shit about it. You just scratch the surface.
Exactly.
Dig deeper.
Exactly.
Dig deeper.
Exactly.
And that's what I would encourage. Check your sources. Continue to dig.
I love it. Do your own research. Do your DYOR. Yes. DYOR, you guys. Exactly. And with that being said, you guys, that was fucking amazing,
dude. Rad.
John, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you, brother.
That was great. Thank you. I was stoked to be here.
Awesome, man. Okay, guys, out there, everybody, throw me in the comment section. I want to know what you guys thought today. I want to know what you guys think about the chemtrails, what you guys are feeling out there. And always remember, you guys, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, not the other way around. My name is Eddie Booz, and this is Exit the Matrix. Take care, you guys.